We can stop a comet from hitting the Earth. Those things we can stop. We actually don't know how to turn Bitcoin off. It's so valuable to so many people that it will always exist. That immutability property, right? If everything has been optimized around us so that, the people growing up today will have a faster, more efficient, frictionless life than, let's say, the people that grew up 100 years ago. But if you sit and hold it for 4 years, it's usually quite a safe bet where you're going to come out on top after a 4-year cycle. And so we think of the internet, oh, everyone's got the internet. No. 64 out of 100 people on Earth have the internet. They know what Bitcoin is, meaning like they get that Bitcoin is this stubborn line in the sand that will just keep going, and they know what they're going to get. And that's actually one of the most appealing parts of it. There's no noise, there's no keeping up, reading the paper today to see what the stock's doing because it went up or down or whatever. It's like everything's already there, all the news is already broken. Do you want to be in it or not? You can join and then basically just ride the roller coaster.
Bitcoin is money on steroids. What do you mean by that?
Easiest way is think about the internet is information on steroids. Like high throughput, very fast pace. It sets the tone. It keeps up with today, right? You can't publish a newspaper today and expect any news to be the same tomorrow. There's so much happening every day. And so let's say we get, paper letters in the mail and we invest in, let's say, a government bond account or something. Now, that pace for someone that's 20 years old, that's used to getting their emails instantly, contacting friends instantly, everything is instant. Uber shows up at your door straight away. Like all this stuff is so instant. If you try and tell them, like in America, a savings account is 0.1% interest. Oh, put your money into a savings account. $1,000 is going to get $1 a year. That's not steroidsy enough. They're used to getting everything really quickly, really instantly, and really frictionlessly. And that's why I think Bitcoin meets that criteria. It moves fast enough. It's got the pace and the operation, as an investment vehicle to give returns that people would be like, oh, that's enough to feel something on my time horizon. Because people nowadays have such a shorter time horizon, they can't get excited about putting something in when they're 20 years old and earning 6% on it for 30 years or something like that. They won't make the jump with that because it's not enticing enough. But I think Bitcoin is the level of volatility that provides an enticing sort of opportunity for younger people.
And you're millennial, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it kind of it's kind of real estate of your I'm almost millennial. I'm apropos Gen Z. Or everyone thinks that I'm millennial. But do you think that from our generation, Bitcoin is kind of the real estate, what was the real estate for boomers and those kind of
100%, 100%. But because a lot of them are priced out of the market. The way, as a 20-year-old trying to buy a home now, it's just the multiples of the average income is so high, especially in Australia or Sydney specifically. We have one of the most out of proportion housing markets in the world right now. So when my parents bought a house, it was 4 times the average income. Now it's about 17 times the average income. So the idea of you get married and buy a home and you pay it off and stuff, or that journey, it's not that it doesn't exist now, it's just shaped differently. And it's not so much of a safe path to follow. If you're 20 now, and you do that, it's going to be really challenging, to do it out on your own 100%, in Sydney anyway, because of the way that the market is. But I think now it's people can get access to stuff faster. So Bitcoin, for example, you can't live in your Bitcoins. Absolutely not. But as a young person trying to accumulate wealth, they might be able to accumulate wealth faster than their friends. And I think there's sort of a lower barrier to entry as an investor. You can invest with $1,000. Property becomes a bit harder. If you've got $1,000, you've got to kind of keep saving until you got enough to buy or invest into a property. And that usually requires a big parcel of money. And so if I'm working at McDonald's or if I've got my entry-level job, I want to be just sort of $10 every paycheck, $25, whatever it is. Because every $25 you put in, and it sounds like a Ponzi scheme, but let's say you put in $25 into Bitcoin, in 5 years' time, it's probably going to be $100 or whatever you want to call it. But you're going to have a meaningful growth on it that you go, oh, that was worth actually putting this $25 away. If I put $25 away a week and I say I'm going to earn 3% on it, I'll be like, oh man, that $25 will be worth, $26 in 100 years. It doesn't have the same like meat on the bone or the appeal for a younger audience, I think, because their time preference is, they're just used to less delays for everything. Phone calls, I wait less time. Airplanes, less time. Highways to get anywhere in the city, there's all fast transport. Like everything has been optimized around us so that, the people growing up today will have a faster, more efficient, frictionless life than, let's say, the people that grew up 100 years ago. So I can buy butter from the shelf now instead of having to make my own butter at home. I can download all my movies right now instead of having to go to the video store, rent a video, and then come home. And so all these points of friction, they're all getting reduced. And I think Bitcoin reduces sort of this like time horizon for people where it's like, oh, you can see the value of investing in it sort of. I mean, like, obviously not all the time, it goes down. But if you sit and hold it for 4 years, it's usually quite a safe bet where you're going to come out on top after a 4-year cycle. But you've got to hold it for 4 years.
It's also super fun how you mentioned it, because I see a lot of very young people, like under 20 years old or under 25 years old, getting less into Bitcoin and actually more into meme coins, because they have this even more of like, hey, like, it's so funny, but Bitcoin is too slow. Like Bitcoin is not enough.
Now that's too slow. Because it's like people, and that's literally a thing. So it's like, you come from this world where you didn't know if the stock would go up over 3 years or 4 years. Then that Bitcoin comes out and it has a much more strong arc, like basically a trajectory that's feels like a lot more predictable. And then now it's like when you talk to people, like I've got younger brothers that got into meme coin trading, and they're like, oh yeah, Bitcoin's so boring though. And I'm like, it's got a history of 26% annualized returns year over year. Like, what could be boring about that? And they're like, yeah, but this does like a 600%. And they talk in X's. So like 6X, 5X, 2X multiple. And it's like, oh, this gets 18% a year. It's like 18% a year. I can get 6X in like 2 days. And then that's where their expectations start, right? It's sort of like giving them Netflix and saying, no, you don't have Netflix anymore. You've got to go to the video store now. They'd be like, fuck that. No way. I'm used to Netflix. I'm not going backwards. And so their appetite or criteria for success basically goes up, like gets extended. So if they make 1X in a day, they're going to be like, it's like gambling, basically. It's like any gambler, right? They're never going to feel the hit of a $10 bet if they're betting $1,000. Because the $1,000 is what gives them the hit. And so as you keep extending your bet to get the hit, it's almost like you keep extending the volatility of the asset you're going to invest in just to get more gains faster. It sort of just gets closer and closer to a gamble, basically.
It's almost sad, because when I speak with those people, it's never about the fundamentals. It's never about what this thing actually does, because if they actually research that, they would see like, oh, there's nothing going on. And so Bitcoin is the only thing where you actually have strong fundamentals. It's the biggest and best money that we will ever get. And then it's like, oh, but 99% of the world still doesn't get it, and that's the upside. Like I can get early in because it's like 99% of still
get it early, because a lot of people, they're distracted or they're focused on meme coins, and these things are shiny objects. And like as people are coming into the industry, they get kind of ushered in the wrong direction. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh no, don't look at Bitcoin, that's boring. Look at these things. And they're all these it's like a circus, literally, like walking to a fun park. There's roller coasters, there's rides everywhere, all this sort of stuff going on. It's it's mayhem. But I think as well, it will force the division between a Bitcoin, like, because Bitcoin has kind of got baked into it a lot of these sort of philosophies and stuff like that that transcend it, right? Like these behaviors. Now, a lot of the other meme coins, whether it's Ethereum or not, it doesn't really matter. It's sort of, they're still trying to figure out what they want to be and what they want to do. And the community is still trying to figure out what they want to be and what they want to do. As where I think right now, Bitcoin's feature set, one of the best things about it is that it's boring. When you have a reduced scope on anything, basically meaning it's like less exciting, it means that it can do that one thing really well. And I think that's what you want from money. Like if money is really important, you want to make sure that it can do one thing really well and just not break. And that's what Bitcoin does really well. It doesn't change and it doesn't break. But like if you look at, let's say, whether it's Ethereum or any other protocol, like you can't build something on something that's changing all the time. And that doesn't mean that that thing's bad. It just means you can't build money on it. Like it doesn't, it means that maybe you can build other stuff. Sure, I'm not sure. But in the conversation of money, it's got to be consistent. We can't have a ledger update every sort of 6 years when a new group of people come in and say, maybe we should change to proof of stake from proof of work. Like that's a big thing. And you can't have big changes like that on a foundation. That's like having an earthquake in Japan. The buildings are like, or Bangkok more recently, it shakes everything above it. So if the decisions are being made about changing the chain, it just makes the conversations, that's the wrong energy. You shouldn't be trying to fix your chain. Your chain should be very single purpose, and you should go and broadcast that purpose to everyone. And I think that's what Satoshi did really well. He put that seed in the Genesis block that said, basically summarizing all of the previous monies, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout. And he's basically saying they're printing more money again. And so that's sort of like planting that seed in the Genesis block is sort of saying, this is the seed that started it all. And this is where the problem lay. And I think it's really good having a very specific scope on anything, right? If you're trying to accomplish anything, you need a very specific scope or, to delineate between what is in scope and what is out of scope. And a lot of the times people have too much stuff they want to do and they end up doing none of them really well. So you might have a chain that can do everything, but it ends up not doing anything really spectacularly, which means it loses out in the mind share of many people. Like I think Ethereum right now is facing one of these sort of, I think Ethereum as an ecosystem and stuff, it's just different to Bitcoin. Right or wrong, it's a different conversation, right? And it's like, I think for them, it's sort of, now they're in a really rock and a hard place, basically, as a like community, they're in a rock and a hard place where they aren't the fastest chain, they're not the hardest money, and so they're not a Solana, which is faster, they're not Bitcoin, which is a harder money, and they're not the most secure, and now they're kind of left, where you're kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. And that can be really challenging, but I think that's actually one of the biggest keys for Bitcoin's success is that it's not trying to do everything. It's trying to just be deflationary and stay that course without any human being tampering with it or fixing it, you know what I mean? And I think it's a really interesting challenge. Like, can we not break it? Can we not ruin it? Like, we tend to ruin good things very quickly. So I hope that we don't. And I think that the community in Bitcoin, some people call them toxic and stuff like that, but I don't think it's toxic. I think it's just preserving tradition and thinking about these people that are ultra enthusiastic about preserving tradition. They might not be elegant with their words, but whatever. It's a big topic, so...
We are very, very protecting about Bitcoin. We really don't like anyone else to fuck with Bitcoin, to manipulate Bitcoin, or try to make something fancy out of Bitcoin. So the toxic side has its ups and downs. Obviously, if someone comes on Bitcoin Twitter and he plays with ideas and is like, oh, like, what about that? What about that? And he just tries to learn. And a bunch of people say like, oh, have fun staying poor. You don't get it. I'm not sure if that's
counterproductive.
It's counterproductive.
educate, don't humiliate. Like, if there's ever a chance, just always share like knowledge. Don't rub it in their face. Don't say they're an idiot for not buying it when they should have. Like, that's just counterproductive. At the end of the day, we're all on the same planet, and we should all be trying to help each other out of bad situations if we can see that it's a bad situation. So yeah, everyone comes around eventually, but I think it's never productive. Other than people patting themselves on their back for feeling better about themselves, I don't think it's a net gain to be like, oh, have fun staying poor. It's like, dude, they're probably very distracted because their boss is chewing them out at work and their kids yelling or their parents are sick or something. Like, so many people have so much stuff going on that it's not that they don't want to have an easier life or they don't want an easier money. It's just there's heaps of stuff, on top of our plates every day, like in and out, it feels like.
Yeah, it's an ego thing almost. Like you want to make yourself feel better in saying like, oh, you don't get it, versus you actually try to educate, but it's also it's also exhausting.
Yes, exactly. So I get that. It is exhausting.
Absolutely. Really, really, really interesting. Maybe a fun thing to do for the young audience, for the gambling audience that is like, oh, Bitcoin is boring. I don't like to do that. What is your most bullish thesis on Bitcoin?
Okay. So the way that I put it is we don't like, and this isn't even hyperbole or like a metaphor. We can literally stop a nuclear warhead from ruining a city. We can stop a comet from hitting the earth. Those things we can stop. We actually don't know how to turn Bitcoin off. And just like if you think about a machine that we've created in humanity, that you turned it on and we can't actually turn it off because there's no way to with Bitcoin. And I don't mean like, it's not centralized. I mean like, it's so valuable to so many people that it will always exist. Like, as in someone will make it run. And that is sort of that immutability property, right? If you can only invest in one thing, I'd probably invest in the thing that we don't know how to turn off because it's going to keep going. And so like if survival of the fittest, I think that's a pretty compelling story. And it's like, just alone, if I could invest in something that would never break and I get royalties if it's successful, that's like being able to invest in the invention of the wheel and saying, hey, if anyone ever uses a wheel in the future, you're going to benefit from that. Same thing with like the internet. Hey, there's 21 million coins on this thing called the internet. Would you want to invest in it? 100%. You're owning the base layer of everything else. But my one-liner would be, we cannot break it. So if we can't break it and it's going to be around forever, then that's probably a great place to put money. It might not be the best, whatever, but right now, if I can't break something, then that's going to be by default the best place I could ever put my money because it can't break. And so that just conceptually to me is like, feels like quite a no-brainer. And then someone goes, but you can put your money anywhere. It's like, no. My money melts when I put it anywhere else. Like literally, if I put an ice cube in front of you and it melted and you said, no, just put your money on this other place. It's like, no, the ice cube keeps melting. The temperature in the room hasn't changed. It's going to keep melting. No matter how many ice cubes you put there, they will keep melting. So in the same way with Bitcoin, kind of the same thing. It's like, it's going to keep melting if it's not in a deflationary environment, which is like a cool temperature. Think about like the ice cube, putting it in a fridge. If it's in a fridge, it'll stay as an ice cube. If you put it in a sauna, it's going to start looking way different. It just feels so like someone said, it's too good to be false, not too good to be true. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's so true.
I love that. It's too good to be false. Never heard that before.
Knut's fun home. So that's his infinity divided by 21 million and too good to be false.
I love that. It's really good. Yeah, it's kind of, and you brought it so good because it will be around. We cannot turn it off, and it's like one way. Either it's breaking and we turn it off, or everyone will use it somehow in as a base layer, the same way as electricity, the same way as gunpowder, the same way as the internet. If you show up with the one gun in a fist fight, you have all the advantage. If you show up financially with Bitcoin in your pocket versus 5 other people have US dollar, Australian dollar, like euros, you will win. Like there's like no questions around that.
Yeah, survival of the fittest, and it feels sort of like a Titanic thing, like when you're trying to run from the boat that's sinking. It's what it can feel like. Oh, look, markets can change and stuff like that, but geez, not much is going to change if you keep printing money. It can't. It can't change. You can put as many Band-Aids on it as you want, but it's going to be so difficult to change. And the more you print, the easier it is to print more. You know, it's like when you've had a million beers and you take a piss the first time and you break the seal, and then you have to keep going to the bathroom after more beers. Like, just it gets faster and faster. Anyway, that's basically what printing money's like. They're doing the same thing. They print. Well, that was pretty easy. They hold their finger down on the printer again, and they just keep doing it because it's. I mean, if you can do it. I mean, if I was a politician and I could do it and it was like part of the package, then sure. But like, that's just, you're literally just taking money out of the pockets of the taxpayers who you're supposed to work for, which is super weird. Like, if you steal from your boss, like, you should probably not be there. And right now they're all employees stealing from their boss, and the taxpayers are their boss. So I don't get it. I'm not a politician, but to me that makes no sense. So, okay. But that's a pretty good incentive to look at a different system where my boss isn't stealing from me, or, the team's not stealing from me. So
there isn't even a boss. There's just rules on a decentralized. Like that's a way better system where there's not even someone that could steal from you.
No. It's actually saying, no, all I want you to do is keep all your money the same as it is. It's like, no, I'm not trying to change anything. It's like, oh, great. Well, that's good. Yeah,
absolutely. Really interesting. And I think a lot of people have, especially outside of Bitcoin, I think within Bitcoin, more and more people understand how early we actually are. But outside of Bitcoin, they don't get how early we are, because they have seen it now since a few years, and they've seen it maybe at like 5,000, maybe at 10,000, and they're like, oh, like, what is it, 100,000 now? Like, now it's over. Like, that, how high can it go? And they just look at the one unit price. They don't look at like network adoption. They don't look at like what's the total thing for Bitcoin. So I'm always frustrated in making people aware of, we are just barely getting started here. Like, it's nothing.
It really is. It's not a novelty. It's a migration. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, oh, it's hit 100 grand, or, oh, it's hit $1 million. Oh, cool. It got there. It's like, no. It's all flooding into this. It's not stopping at $1 million. It's not stopping at 2 million. It's not stopping at 10 million. It's just going to keep going. Just like the internet, right? The internet started, all the big brands made websites. That didn't mean the internet was done. The internet had all these new products to bring out. So basically, let's think about the internet, right? 1990s, everyone's got magazines, reading magazines. Then New York Times and all these companies that produce magazines or media content, they make websites. And we go, everyone's got a website. Now the internet's good. That's sort of like saying, Bitcoin's at $100,000. Okay, now it works. Not really. It's like the internet got made, everyone made a website, and then you had Napster, Google, Instagram, Facebook, and it's totally reformed the entire world based on how the internet grew. And it hasn't stopped growing either. And you know what's a crazy stat? The whole world, like the global population for internet, like usage and like actually having access to the internet right now, I don't think it's any higher than like 63 or 64%. And so we think of the internet, everyone's got the internet. No, 64 out of 100 people on Earth have the internet. So the internet, even though it's changed so dramatically and changed our world so dramatically, it's just over halfway adoption. And it's most likely that the biggest gains to be made are from the people that have never touched it yet. Do you know what I mean? Like they're the freshest original minds that are sort of unpoisoned by the internet. And so when I think about Bitcoin, when people are like, oh, how's the Bitcoin thing going? It's like, it's migrating. Like money and capital is just migrating. Just like information migrated from libraries to the internet, capital is going to migrate from the traditional market systems into basically into a stable money system, or like, let's say, a hard money system. And that's out of desperation, like literally out of zero alternatives. Like if the system was good and worked, people would just use it. Like you risk like if you have a product, let's say currency is a product and I'm a country, let's say I could be a company selling t-shirts, or I could be a country offering currency. If my product is not good, I'm going to make way for a competitor to solve the pain points that my money is not solving, right? Like let's say I made t-shirts, but I only made short arm t-shirts. People in Norway might want long sleeve t-shirts because it's cooler. I've missed out on a whole thing. And so I think like when people are looking at, this like sort of this art, like it's almost like they've got the old goggles on. Oh, it's at 100K. Oh, cool. No. You don't understand. This is like flipping the whole world upside down. It doesn't stop at 100K. It stops when it's all, when every cent is basically on this new system. So we're sort of migrating the same way we migrated all our information into digital information. All of our capital is going to be migrated into cryptographic capital, basically, which is hardened and secured by cryptography digitally and energy.
That's an amazing insight. And this is always the way to understand how Bitcoin is actually going to get adopted, because we have seen it with electricity, with the internet. There's still a lot of places on Earth where there's no electricity. If you turn off the electricity in like New York City for 2 weeks, you have big problems. In other cities, in other areas, it's completely normal to not have electricity. Same with the internet, and the same will be true for the Bitcoin. We have different areas where where Bitcoin will spread faster and more deeply. Those will be way more prosperous, and the other ones will be left behind. A city without electricity, internet, and Bitcoin looks a lot sadder than a city with electricity, internet, and Bitcoin.
Yeah. And just thinking about this, right? Different, like Bitcoin is like, or value, let's say, value is like what's valuable. Value is in the eye of the beholder, like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You might really think that tall blonde girls are your favorite like type of girl or whatever. And it's like, no, everyone might think that redheads or brunettes or whatever it is. Everyone's got a different perspective on what's valuable, right? So for people, think about Bitcoin. Came out in 2008 or whatever. People have been using Bitcoin in foreign countries where inflation's really high. They use it to store value. Now, we hadn't learnt about that in America or Australia because we didn't feel like our inflation was like Zimbabwe dollars, right? Where it goes up 1,000,000% a year. And so if you're in Argentina and you've got 75% a year inflation and you put your money in Bitcoin, to you, that's like getting a savings account with 75% annual interest, like just because you're dodging that loss. And so those countries, Argentina, Venezuela, all these countries, they had when people showed them Bitcoin, they weren't like, oh, but is it better than Venmo? Or, oh, I can already transfer money using my bank account. They're like, dude, fuck your bank account. Fuck that. I'm losing 70% every year by my government. Like, how can I avoid that? Oh, there's this thing you can park your money in and it doesn't actually print more. It goes down in deflation. What? You don't need to tell them twice. You don't even need to argue with it. There's no, but what about Solana? Ask all those people about the tokenomics of other protocols, and they'll go, no, it's all junk, because they've lived and breathed what inflation feels like from an external source controlling how how your money supply basically operates. So, I used to operate an exchange and we got to work with lots of different countries, Brazil, Argentina, all this sort of stuff. And you actually get to see the pain points a lot more meaningfully in these different regions than, say, just serving US customers or Australia or UK. Like, that's a pretty vanilla profile of people that are very well connected to financial systems and stuff. But when you expand to, like, let's say Africa or South America or Latin America, you start opening up the conversation for actual real pain points. Now, you go talk to some of your friends, you've got to basically convince them why Bitcoin's a good thing. But if you and your friends are in Zimbabwe, you guys are all huddling around figuring out how you can all get more Bitcoin, because you know what the pain point is. But until we can see the pain point, it's very hard to get to move the needle until the pain point is felt here. Even with Seyr, right? Seyr was looking like, how do I stop my company's money from melting? That was his problem that he had to solve. And he's like, well, I've looked everywhere. I've dug up, I've turned over every rock, and I can't see anything else that looks as appealing as Bitcoin. And I think that's because he had a problem that he needed to solve. And that sort of comes back to that idea that people say that everyone finds Bitcoin when they need it, or, everyone gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve, whatever it is. But people do find Bitcoin when they need it most, because it's usually got some sort of solution to their problem. Like anything, right? I didn't buy an iPhone when it first came out. I didn't buy one for like 2 years or 3 years. But after a while, I was like, oh, there's this game I really want to play with my mates online. Okay, cool. Now I'll get an iPhone because that's got this game or whatever. Like, everyone's got their own carrot to get into something. That's why it's like, I find it really hard to insult people about not getting into it, because everyone's life's different. Everyone's pain points are different that they're trying to figure out in their life. So I think it's one thing I do think is it's good that foreign country, like let's say countries that aren't the Western world, got exposure to Bitcoin really early on. So there's really great companies in Latin America, South America, Africa that are doing really good stuff for awareness and distribution. Because as Bitcoin gets, like, the Western world grabs a hold of it, it might start putting the velocity on Bitcoin's price to acquire it too aggressive. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, where it's like the West is like excited about Bitcoin. So you're seeing JP Morgan and all these guys pumping the price. But what that can do is start alienating the people that need it most. Now, I'm not saying keep the price small. That's not the point. The point is that you sort of want to walk harmonically, if you can, together as much as possible. But it's just not going to happen. But they've had really good infrastructure, and typically these places have really good payment infrastructure as well. So yeah, Kenya's had M-Pesa, where they were trading mobile minutes. They were trading mobile minutes because it was so much more efficient and it solved the pain point for them. So instead of buying things for like Kenyan peso or whatever it is, their currency, I'd actually just trade you mobile minutes, cell phone minutes, because that was the currency we all use. So it's like, everyone figures it out, right? And I think Bitcoin finds a way of entering everyone's conversation pretty quickly. Even people that aren't Bitcoin supporters, let's say a lot of the teams in Ethereum raised ICOs, right? Like, they do their initial coin offerings. Heaps of them have heaps of it parked in Bitcoin because it's their store of value as well. Like, they've got Ethereum that they raise, sure, but they've also migrated a lot of that into Bitcoin because of its certainty, because of how deterministic it is, because of how secure it is. Like, and when you think about security, right? If this is the thing, money, right? If this, it's money. This isn't a calendar app. This isn't like, Uber Eats. Wait, I can get a hamburger to my door in 15 minutes. No, this is money. Money has killed millions of people. It's ruined billions of people's lives. Like, this is like the final dance kind of thing, right? You really want it to not fuck up. So there's no room for experimentation. We're building the rocket as we're flying it across the water. And it's like, I think when you look at the level of experimentation that people put to it or think that is necessary, I think those people need to zoom out a bit more beyond their own scope of reference. And it's like, oh, no. Bitcoin needs to be faster and it needs to have monkey JPEGs and stuff. It's like, dude, calm down. Like, you don't know what it needs to be yet. Let's just get everyone in the room before we start saying what it needs to be. And it's very rich that most of the people saying what it needs to be, they're doing that almost out of boredom. Like, it's like there's no more opportunities, so we need to do something more. It's like, sure, there's some upgrades and stuff, but nothing that is pressing enough so much that it needs to happen now or tomorrow. Unless it's like something, let's say a security vulnerability. You look at quantum computing and things like that. But that's actually not the biggest security vulnerability. The biggest security vulnerability is always going to be social, right? What if people change it? Like block size wars is a great example in 2017. What happens if they let the block size change? Now, it doesn't matter whether it's 2 megabytes, 3 megabytes, or 1.5 megabytes. The point is the rules changed and the rules were overthrown. And that is more the point. And so when Ethereum says, let's say they change their protocol rules, it's not so much, oh, you chose the wrong block size, or, oh, you made it too far. That's not the point. The point is that there is some way that can be, it's fragile enough where it can be broken. Like, do you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, we don't have enough people in the community to have enough conviction on the original message, so let's tweak it as we go. But you got to remember, if these things are going to be here for 20, 50, 100 years, we can't tweak anything. It's not our responsibility, right? We're meant to respect what the code is and make sure it basically is preserved in its best fashion. That's why we don't put Pepsi signs on the pyramids. We didn't build them. The pyramids aren't ours. We're not putting ads and shit all over them. Like, we respect the heritage of them. We have national parks that we preserve. We have statues that we preserve. We take care of things that are very valuable, and if all bodies of work, and Bitcoin's a pretty close thing to a body of work. When you look at how much energy we put into it as a species, really, like we're pouring energy into the security of this. So there's the physical security with all the energy in the Bitcoin mining, but just as important, this is like back to the toxic maximalists, right? On Twitter. They're exhausting when people go, oh, why don't, Elon Musk said, oh, Bitcoin's kind of good, but it needs faster blocks. And then everyone was like, boo. And even he's not safe from them, right? But they're not sort of saying that because they don't like Elon Musk. Maybe, maybe not. A lot of the times they're just trying to make sure that this doesn't fuck up and people don't get them, their greasy sort of hands on it to get it to be something that they want it to be, as opposed to something that it should and could be. So it's sort of the, personal, people sort of injecting their own personal preferences in there everywhere, which, look, it's great, but we're not asking for feedback. Like, this isn't a project that's asking for feedback, I don't think. I don't hear the founder talking very much, that's for sure. So I'm not in the market to give feedback if it's not being asked for. I'm more like, okay, I see your vision. I'm aligned with your vision. How can I share your vision? I'm not trying to make more work for the founder, by making his thing into something different that they didn't intend it to be. I just want to sort of share the word. And if it's not for you, then you don't talk about it. But if it is for you and you think it can bring value to other people's lives, then you want to talk about it.
Let's take a break for a moment and appreciate the beauty that Coin Vigilante has made with the Bitcoin watches. Those watches are the most amazing, the most elegant way of showing that you are a true Bitcoiner. And Coin Vigilante just dropped a completely new and amazing Genesis edition of their watch collections. You have the date of the first ever mined Bitcoin block in there, and of course also the block height and which epoch we are currently in. I love the level of detail they put in this masterpiece. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. And now, if you have Bitcoin, I really do hope that you don't have it on exchange. But if you do have it on exchange, I have two ways for you to deal with that. The first way is you put it on a hardware wallet. That's the entry for you to get into the self-custody game. I recommend BitBox, Bitcoin only edition, for that. It's a super simple and secure way. And if you check out the link in the description, you even get 5% off if you use the code Robin. And the second way is the Bitcoin Way. The Bitcoin Way is your all-in partner in terms of how to get the most out of your your sovereignty. They will personalize for you a self-custody setup that is perfect for your individual situation. They will show you how you can secure your own devices. Securing your Bitcoin is not enough. You also have to keep all your devices secure. One topic that is overlooked often is the inheritance plan. What happens with your Bitcoin once you are no longer here? Do you have a plan for that in place already? And last but not least, if you're in the jurisdictions where you don't feel safe, it's better to get a plan B. For all that, head over to thebitcoinway.com/Robin to get a 30-minute free call. And just a quick side note, I will be for the first time ever speaking at the Bitcoin Prague event in June. It will be absolutely legendary and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you there. You can get your ticket in the link down in the description of Bitcoin Prague, and very important, use code Robin to get 10% off your ticket. I'm really looking forward to seeing you there. Yeah, and you can always, how do we say, you can always fork off.
Yeah.
you can always say like, oh, I copy the code, I change what I want, and here is the new coin that's way better than Bitcoin. Please buy it. You will see that nobody cares about your coin.
Yeah, very quickly. And it's an interesting thing about, we were talking about like changing the rules of the protocol. So one of the things is like, it's you never want it to change once, because once it changes once, it can change a second time much easier. And I think about this. Think about a glass window, and like, let's say a shark movie, right? You're in an aquarium. There's a big glass window of the shark, and the shark gets angry and it swims into the glass window. You see that in shark scary movies or whatever, right? And it smashes it, and a tiny crack goes like through the glass window. The next time they hit it, the strength of the glass is much less, right? So once you smashed a glass, like given it the shatter, its structural integrity is basically compromised. The same thing with a protocol. If you can change the block size or whatever, the structural integrity of the decision-making is broken. And that's what we saw. As soon as the block size changed, they forked off and changed block size. But because the people that were willing to change block size, their decision-making structural integrity is lower. So what happened? They forked off, and then very quickly after, it forked again because they were infighting again. So it's this indecision, or let's say lack of focus or lack of alignment, that usually produces these problems. It's not so much like a hacker that's broken something or something. It's always these my opinion versus your opinion kind of thing. And that's where you see, if people are willing to have these flippant opinions, that flippant opinion will follow itself to the new chain. So if we all decided to change block size, then we're all the type of people that decide things should change. And that then becomes part of the DNA of our chain. And sure enough, the people that decide to fork off from Bitcoin ended up having a fork war themselves very shortly after. And so, I just think there's something to be said about that. Like it's very overlooked, but in computer science and all that sort of stuff, the number one attack vector is always social engineering. So if you wanted to bring Bitcoin down, you would find a way to get consensus on making the blocks bigger and more worse or whatever, making nodes bigger and more expensive to run. You'd probably find a way to justify increasing the supply cap of how many Bitcoins are in there. But all these things, like, you change any of them and you ruin the party. Do you know what I mean? That is the attack. The attack is ruining the party. It's not, everyone that held Bitcoin got hacked. It's no. The beast lost. It was vulnerable. And it got, over 2 years of, sneaky, malicious changes, someone figured out a way to convince everyone that we needed to double the coin supply to 42 million. And that becomes ridiculous. It's like saying, I don't even know what it's like saying, but it's just like, it's not our product to change. It's, our product to use if we like it and not use if we don't like it. That's how I think about it.
It's so cool how you break it down with the class, because that's something I think that gets overlooked, that when Bitcoin Cash forked, there was Bitcoin Satoshi Vision and other things that came from that.
Very
Because
soon after.
the people that try to change it, those are people that are not satisfied and they want to change it again. They want to change it again. And Bitcoin is kind of the glass that cannot be broken. It's like you cannot get through there. And for me, honestly, the block size war showed for me that Bitcoin can resist an inside social attack. It was an inside social attack. It was not something, I don't know, maybe it was outside, but it was not something planned from the CIA or like the China government is going in there. It was just an inside social attack.
It wasn't manufactured. It was an organic quarrel and a disbelief. Yes. And that was, I 100% agree, Robin. That was the biggest aha moment in the world for me. I was like, oh my God, it handled it? Holy moly, that's like the biggest test ever. Because if it survived that, which was brutal, then, I mean, because you had so many of the thought leaders internally that were torn apart, like torn from which way to go. And so it's like, if it survives through that, then it's there's no other figurehead that's going to be able to come in and tear it apart as well. I don't think so. It's an interesting lesson, though. I think I think you and I, similar to many other people, that is like, that's like watching some person get into a fight and win and being like, oh, okay, he's my dude. I'm betting on that person every time from now on. Nobody has ever done that to anyone or whatever. I've never seen something so resilient. Yeah, at least that's how I think about it.
Yeah, it's also interesting, the whole story with the people and the thought leaders, as you mentioned. Like, I think Roger Ver is probably the face of the whole thing, and there are many others from that. He suffered financially massively from it, and his image, and probably way more important, his image suffered a lot. And this is something where I'm like, okay, you have to be first honest with yourself. And you can make mistakes. Maybe you actually thought, but then also admitting, I'm like, oh, I was wrong. Like, it's actually better to keep it like, and to see those personal stories is super fascinating. I personally just went into Bitcoin in 2020, so I had the good thing that I just listened to the history of Bitcoin and read the books around it. And I think it was a hard time to be in. I don't know if you were around in that time, but what I read, it was like Reddit was super for the bigger blogs, the whole industry, all the miners. It was not an easy time to be a Bitcoiner.
No, okay, so I'll give you an example, right? So at the time, I was CEO of Wire, and we were a large infrastructure provider for liquidity and security to many of the exchanges, and basically wallets as a service, liquidity as a service, all that stuff, right? And we had investors that were, openly supportive of the block size change and stuff like that. And they emailed me saying, oh, what are you guys going to do? Are you guys for or against it? And I was like, I thought it was a bit out of my pay grade. Like, I'm the CEO of the company, but I'm not the most knowledgeable on the protocol. Like, and we've got gurus at the company they're more in tune with it. Like, I was still startup mode, like founder, oh, this is fun, this is exciting. But these guys know what Bitcoin means beyond just startup land. And so I showed them the email and I said, guys, what's our stance on this? Because I'm going to follow whatever you guys think because you're the most informed. And then basically they said, nah, we're not doing it. Like, we don't want, Wire should not be supporting it. And here's why. And so I got them to basically write the email back from my account to send to our investors about why we're not participating. And out of all the companies that signed what was called the SegWit 2X, the New York Agreement, it was basically this agreement to sort of make this hybrid thing. Our company was one of the three that didn't sign. So we were opposed against the block size changing. And that showed me something too, because I realized that it doesn't matter if Coinbase and all these other big companies at the time are for it. They might have 40 million users, but they still have one node. And the one node is what votes. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't matter how influential you are. It's like, oh, well, if all your users have nodes, then they will vote against this or for it or whatever. But because no one is actually a user, they don't have any weight other than sort of not propaganda, but promotional material, right? Like saying, hey, we're for this and we're for that. And here's why we think this is a really good idea. But the reality was, it was just the market just said, no, like, thank you. Oh, you're worth $100 billion company. You know, this $10 billion company, you need it. Oh, we need faster blocks. We need bigger blocks. We can't do. Too bad. Find somewhere else to go. And like that in itself, seeing it being able to withstand that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. It makes you realize that it's like its own entity. Like it really is, where everyone is sort of protecting it. Like it's like a first alien baby that we found on Earth, and we're all making sure that it doesn't get harmed. Does that make sense? Like that's how it feels. Just preserving it as much as we can, because tiny changes over time add up. Like it's just like slang language becomes colloquial language. Like the word naughty, right? Like, I don't know if this is real or not, but from what the origins of the word was from when you had kids that were basically around like late 1800s or something, and the kids had nothing, and they go around the rich area, the rich people around the train stations or whatever, and they would be considered the have-nots, the naughty kids. And they were usually more like adventurous and playful and always doing stuff. And so they were considered the have-nots or the naughties. And that's where the word naughty came from. And it's like, we don't know that. But at the time, that would have been maybe quite common. I don't know. But that was a relic of the past that we just take for granted today. So when you have these tiny tweaks in history, they add up very, like, in a huge way over time. And so if Bitcoin is this canvas that's meant to last for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, then we want to make sure it looks good for the people that come. Like, in 20 years, 30 years time, if they look at us and be like, look at these idiots, they blew it. Like they had the best chance at sound money in a high inflation environment or whatever it is, because the future's looking at us now, seeing how we're playing our cards against the reality. Like we don't know it, but like, back in past days, people have probably been part of stuff that, that we look back in history and go, how did people not object to that at the time or whatever? And it's like, well, they just didn't know at the time. We're probably under the same spell where people are like, so what? These politicians just printed money whenever they want and people just kept paying taxes. It's like, yeah, pretty much. It's like, okay, well, that's your own fault then. You guys are too stupid. You're going to keep playing that game. And it's almost like that, where history would say, no, we're not having a cry for you. You guys were suckers and you didn't stand up for yourself, or you didn't move when you could have moved, or you didn't take action. But I think history will reward the action being taken in general. But yeah, so we want to make sure that the chain, because we don't know what people 20 years from now need from the chain, but we know they need it to not break. Like that's one feature that the people in 20 years need, that we need today, that people tomorrow need, that people yesterday needed. It not breaking, being reliable. So whether it can put monkey pictures on it or not, that maybe is a thing for us today or us yesterday or us in 2 years from now, but it's not relevant for 50 or 100 years. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not as core and critical. And so when we get to choose what features we keep or what features we master in, if we want to have something for 50 to 100 years, then let's pick security, which is what it masters in. Security. It's the most secure piece of machinery we've ever built. And so it's like, well, that's a great feature to have, because security is reliability. And reliability means I can build stuff on top of it. Whether it is, when I say build stuff, I don't mean building DeFi apps. I mean building financial systems that can rely on Bitcoin as a unit of account, because it won't change. It's predictable. And if you've got a system that changes every 6 months or 3 years when the community gets restless in a bear market, so they find something to argue over and they start trying to argue over changes, like, you can't build a future on that. And companies that are worth trillions of dollars or billions of dollars or whatever can't rely on that. And so I think security and persistence and consistency, like you've got two levers in life. Predictability, when that's really high up, risk is really low. So if something's very predictable, the risk is low. Now, if something's very risky, then the predictability of it is very low. And so with Bitcoin, if you know what you're going to get and you know it's always going to be there, then that predictability can make you plan for 5 or 10 years ahead. That's a really powerful thing. We can't really do that today. Like in a fiat system or a high inflation environment, it makes planning 10 or 15 years of your life very challenging. You're like, oh, let's plan. Well, let's say 22 years old. Let's start, and I've got my partner and I'm married. Let's start saving for a house. Okay, cool. So we start saving, but the treadmill's getting faster as we're trying to save. Oh, if we put away $10, $100 every week for the next 6 years, we'll be able to buy X. But if we put, like if $100 doesn't equal $100 in so many years, we've got to put more and more every year just to keep up with this goal. But we won't be able to keep up with the goal because our disposable income is not growing by 14% or 12% or whatever the inflation rate is. And so, I don't know, I just think by having, one of the things that I hear the most from young people that are in Bitcoin is that they don't know enough about other stuff, but they know that they know what Bitcoin is, meaning like they get that Bitcoin is this stubborn line in the sand that will just keep going, and they know what they're going to get. And that's actually one of the most appealing parts of it. There's no noise. There's no keeping up, reading the paper today to see what the stock's doing because it went up or down or whatever. It's like everything's already there. All the news is already broken. Do you want to be in it or not? You can join and then basically just ride the roller coaster. But I do think it's important that everyone learns about it, just as an alternative financial system, because it's always good learning about, what other languages do people speak on planet Earth, and how were those languages formed? Are they the same structure as my language? But because Bitcoin's just a language, it's a financial language. And so, because money is so critical to all of our lives day in and day out, it's like when, if you have Bitcoin, it can change basically so many other attributes around your life, for better and worse, obviously. You might find yourself waking up with a kidney missing and, a ransom letter for you. That's obviously not good because people are getting these wrench attacks and stuff like that. But then on the alternative is maybe it gives you a lot of peace of mind. Maybe you have less money, but you're more certain of the money that you do have. And I think that's an interesting thing because we've never had to question whether our money was sort of real or not. But that's also it's also like that's like the curse of let's say Western society being very money focused. One of the curses is we're so used to this money. Like we're not used to what good money is, and our behavior of spending and wanting more and needing things and all that stuff, that doesn't work on a good money standard or a hard money standard, basically. Because I don't want to sell the stuff that I don't want to keep buying stuff that's not valuable when I've realized how valuable something can be. So with Bitcoin, you buy, oh, cool, my phone, that's mad. Oh, I've got this new glass, that's mad. But it's not valuable. Like this stuff isn't valuable, really. It adds value, sort of, but it's not really valuable. But, your Bitcoins, you can feel this very strong piece of value that's not going to be something you're going to be bored of in 1 year or 2 years. I always think about Bitcoin never takes tourists. If you have learned about Bitcoin and studied it, you never buy it and then sort of sell it 3 years later and be like, oh yeah, that was good. You buy it, you learn about it, and then you learn about it some more. And as you learn more about this, it teaches you more about where you've come from. Sort of like the more you learn about Bitcoin, the more you understand the old financial system. At least that's been my experience. I found I've seen I feel like it's reading learning about Austrian economics. What's that? Oh, it basically says don't spend more than you earn. Like, like kind of like keep being everything feels like it's coming back to common sense, not financial gymnastics. Yeah. That's another thing as well. I think Bitcoin is the product that people need. Like if there's a financial instrument, it's not the 20x leverage debt equity reverse government bond mortgage backed security thing. All of these things are noise. It's like you need the simplest thing that gives you peace of mind. Like money is not meant to be an adventure. It's not meant to be a life sentence. It's meant to be something we figure out and then we can enjoy ourselves or find what our purpose is or find what ways that we can add value beyond just sort of, something financial, I think. Who knows? But we'll find out.
There was a lot in there.
Sorry, mate.
But it is really interesting, and there are multiple things that I kind of remember. But I want to get to something that's maybe interesting to talk with you about. What do you think is the barriers that Bitcoin just has to overcome still? Like a lot of people come to me like, oh, Bitcoin is so great and it's like so awesome, and then like once you get Bitcoin, you see the value proposition. All of a sudden, every other asset seems so bad, and then you wonder like, why aren't we already at like 10 million? Why aren't we at 50% adoption rate? Like,
yeah,
what is holding us back? What are the barriers that Bitcoin has to overcome that we come to 10, 20, 30% adoption rates?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think of Bitcoin's like the Medusa asset. Once you look at it, every other asset just looks like a rock. Do you know what I mean? Like literally, it's like everything's turned to stone once you've looked at it, and you like can't unsee it. But I actually think one of the biggest hurdles is misinformation. Just straight up uninformed opinions flooded everywhere. And there's not critiques and teardowns and stuff. Like, someone critiquing something. Absolutely. Welcome the critiques. But just literally uninformed opinions. Like if you're a financial YouTuber, so many of them are like, oh, Bitcoin's meh. It's like you've done 1 hour. Like you maybe have done 1 hour of study. And that's why Bitcoin rewards people that have done cerebral work, not physical work. And it's almost like people feel like Bitcoin's a cheat code because they haven't had to put a shovel in the ground and their back's not sore from a hard day's work. It's like, no, but you've been you've been reading and reading and reading. Your brain has been studying. Your critical thinking has been challenged 1 billion times. I just think the misinformation is, it's so unreasonable. Like, I just think it's really unfair. Nobody likes inflation. There's not one person who likes giving away their money for free. I don't think, like to strangers, I don't think. Like, it's our responsibility to make sure we're informed and helped everyone understand it. But yeah, there's a lot of financially irresponsible influences, I think, that sort of they're misleading people unfairly.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I always say, come in education. When you want to do something for Bitcoin, use your voice to speak for Bitcoin in whatever form feels most natural for you. Like if you write a blog, if you want to write articles, do that. If you want to make TikTok videos for 30 seconds, that we need definitely a lot more. If you want to start a podcast, if you want to start in Twitter, like whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can do it anonymous. You don't have to show your face, but educating people on Bitcoin, or even I had people reaching out and saying like, oh, I want to be on a podcast, and I had them on the podcast, but they've never been anywhere online, but they have been offline everywhere. They're doing small presentations in front of like 50 people in their local town. They're going from bar to bar, and they're doing actually the hard work of like offline. And I was like, okay, perfect, let's try
stuff. Just door knocking almost, literally. Have you heard about the good word from Satoshi? Like, it's like almost like you're selling Bibles.
Oh yeah, it's like, hey, like I have to sell you something.
Literally.
But we need those people that do online, offline, wherever the people are, like educate other people on Bitcoin. That's the most important thing, because misinformation is the noise is big.
It's huge. It's wild. But I think actually there's like a cohort of people, I think, that are growing up now, whether you're, let's say, age 15 to 30, they're going to get split into two factions. People are going to either go meme coin trading, because everyone's trying to make money, and they're trying to make money because everything's getting really expensive. So there's sort of like the people that are like, what, I'm just going to grind it out. I'm going to keep putting my paycheck into Bitcoin or a portion of it. And then you're going to see the people that are going to go into meme coins and just almost like gambling their wages every week and hoping that one of them works out. Most of them in general, though, they will get Bitcoin as like, they'll see Bitcoin for what it is, because they're growing. Like, if you're 15 to 30 now, you're growing up seeing all these lies from like Trump getting impeached and then not getting impeached, and Biden and all this stuff. The cat's more out of the bag with them. Like for us, like, over the past 12 years, basically, I've never really thought anything of politics other than, it's like whatever, like, okay, whatever they're saying is probably right. But like since Trump and all that stuff, it's like, it's fully opened the door for like everything just not feeling like everyone's on their side. Like they really lost the audience over the past 8 years, I'd say. Do you know what I mean? Like, and since it really felt like Trump has been the one where he's like, no, that's fake news. And it's like, oh, dude, you can't call it fake news. And it's like, dude was right. It is all bullshit. And that is all bullshit. And that's all bullshit. And so there's a group of people that are very easily influenced, who are growing up. That is what they're learning. Oh, it's all bullshit. And so those people, they will get Bitcoin faster than the 31-year-old that's worked at Goldman Sachs for 4.5 years and studied economics for 3 years. He's like, they're too far gone, almost. Like, and I say that their conditioning, like their whole identity and career would be built around this conditioning, right? Like, let's say if I was at Goldman Sachs, I'd be like, yeah, dude, no, that's just this thing, like whatever. But no, they've got no clue about actual economics because I studied it or whatever. It's like, no worries, dude, maybe not. But that system you're studying was all bullshit. There was not a real economist in the room. Like, and that's where it goes, oh, well, that's what real economics looks like. An open free market where you're chucking the things into the pit and watching what comes out. So I think a lot of people have seen, like, they've got Joe Rogan podcasts. A podcast as a medium, right? Like this, it's a much more direct channel for people to see unfiltered perspectives or unfiltered thoughts. And so there's this whole generation growing up with Joe Rogan as their news anchor, right? Like, I love his shit. It's mad. Like, you listen to it, you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I didn't even know that existed. But it's more outside the narrative, because the certain news channels will just keep showing the 8, 10, things that they're meant to show. If we converted every news channel, like traditional media channel, into a YouTube channel, or like translated it, it would be like a YouTuber that keeps telling you all these products that are really good and never disclosing that they've been paid to tell you how good they are. And so obviously the YouTuber loses the audience really quickly when he goes, oh guys, I drink this every morning. Like if Joe Rogan says, oh man, I have this every single morning, you go, oh man, you go and you find Joe Rogan doesn't have it every morning and thinks it tastes like shit. You'd be like, dude, fuck you. Like, you say that's bullshit. Like, and I reckon there'd be a lot of people that would be like, no, I thought you had like integrity or whatever. And that's why they're so popular now, because there is integrity. It's real. It's authentic, as where the news isn't. And so this generation of people that have seen that transition, they saw us go from, oh, the news is bullshit, and heaps of these, stories are bullshit that are just kind of like being peddled for an agenda. many people see that and they go, oh, no, I don't like that. Like, that's why we saw Trump win, because so many people were like, what the hell? This is all so cooked. Like, no way. You've been trying to jail him for no reason and you've been doing all this bad stuff and da-da-da. So people were just like, you know, they get it now. And so now I think there's a whole lot of people that will understand alternative, let's call it alternative economics, much faster than traditional economics. Like,
that's awesome. Yeah. And I think also Trump won the election because he went on all the podcasts. Like he went on Ed and Ross, Joe Rogan, and so many more. Like he was on almost every podcast that I listened to outside of Bitcoin.
And how fantastic though. And what a low bar. Hey, you're leading the whole world into the future. Can you talk to us for 3 hours unscripted? Like, that's all he has to do. And everyone goes, holy shit, he's a human being. He's normal. He might not have every perfect answer, but that's part of it, right? No one's trying to catch him out. Like, look, his competitors are probably trying to catch him out with a gotcha, right? But the audience, like the people voting for him or the whole world, they just want to hear what he has to say, because they're like, no, we'll figure out who's right or who's wrong. We just want to hear them. And so obviously, like when Kamala Harris was going to go on Joe Rogan's podcast, it was like, oh, it's got to be in our studio and these are the questions. And it's the same thing. It's all manufactured. It's not real. And so I think real is now in vogue, or authenticity. And Bitcoin's a pretty authentic money. And so I think that need for authenticity and sort of lack of confusion and stuff like that is like it's like a hangover from the fiat system, I think. And I think that's sort of changed now. So kids growing up, like the kids in kindergarten, when they grow up, Bitcoin will be, you know, wild. Like it's going to be crazy to think. And I don't mean like the price is going to be really high. I just mean like, it's going to be far bigger than it is now in terms of how much everyone understands it, how much people have access to it, how dependent on it are we, you know.
What is Bitcoin doing on an outside of money perspective, outside of financial perspective? How do you see that side?
Well, I think it's massively, right? So firstly, it doesn't change. It is very stubborn, right? If Bitcoin had a personality, like if it was a creature, we'd say it's a very stubborn creature because it doesn't change. It's not, you know, adjusting course based on when people talk to it. It really is doing its own thing, and you can get on board or not. And that attitude, I think, there's a couple of things. One, it's disciplined. So every 10 minutes, new block. Every time, like it doesn't take a day off or anything like that. So it exudes this discipline that I think discipline in our world today is a modern day superpower. When everything is trying to distract you, being disciplined and being focused is the superpower. So when people say, you know, for Bitcoin, I actually think that's one of the really good things is that it is boring, so to speak. People go, oh, Bitcoin's so boring. I think that is good because we want something to be focused and goal orientated. And you can't be goal orientated if there's 30 goals. There's got to be one goal or one focus, right? Very, very narrow scope. I think that discipline, like because money is so deep in our day-to-day needs or our life, like survival stack, when you change the money to be a different type of money, it changes the way you become. So let's say people with Bitcoin compare their Bitcoin wallet transaction list and the frequency of it with their, let's say, their online banking. Online banking, yeah, you're buying this, you're buying that. Bitcoins, you don't move unless absolutely necessary. Like you're never just like throwing them around. Like you might have some that you throw around, but in general, they're the last asset you want to move. You'd rather sell anything else before them. And so I think for me, I think Bitcoin's definitely showed me like that you can survive in this world being focused and disciplined. Like you can get away with not having to be, you can be insulated from the noise, and Bitcoin feels like that. And so I think those behaviors start reflecting back in yourself where you're like, well, maybe I should be more disciplined. Maybe I should be more focused. And like, you see the community in Bitcoin, they're promoting good things. They promote healthy lifestyles. Like, not that I adopt it, but I mean, like, they promote eating really good food and being educated on like critical thinking or vaccines and stuff. Like, I've never seen an industry where there's so many smart cats around and anything, because it's all their thinking. They think differently. Like, do you know, there's actually thinking going on, because to be excited about Bitcoin, you've got to think about it too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you've got to kind of see it for what it is. And so I think heaps of people have had huge life turnarounds with Bitcoin. People have gotten fitter, healthier. People have gotten, change, like increase their knowledge in different areas. With Bitcoin, it's almost like a religion, because religion is like a framework for how to live, right? In the same way, Bitcoin's a protocol for how it can operate. And so when you have a community of people that all have the same money, you have, like, this is said by Australian Bitcoiner, Wiz, he's a brilliant guy, and he's saying how everyone comes into the community, everyone's like 80% the same. Like, oh, yeah, sound money, this, that. But then there's these 20% edges where it's like, oh, I like sound money and rock climbing, or I like sound money and numbers, or I like sound money and this. And it's these edges where everyone's little craft or passion kind of gets to cross-pollinate with other people's passions. And I found like just from a community perspective, it's been incredible. Like, great artists, great sculptors, like just from all different kind of backgrounds, like that's like organic multicultural. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not like a forced multicultural. It's like a organic, just seeing the rise of different markets and how it responds. Kenya likes it for this reason. Iran likes it for that reason. The UK likes it for this reason. Aussies like it for some reason. And there's all these different ways people show that they like it. Some people build video games. Some people write papers. Some people make innovations. I don't know, but it's just so influential. The one thing it will do is, because it reduces complexity, it will give you more peace. So there's less variables out of your control. So you'll have a lot more peace, because you're not like, oh, is the money going to go down? What's the housing market going to do this year? What's that stock going to do this quarter? Like, everything's very now-ish. But if you can find a way to put like a target on the future and know with like a reasonable level of confidence that it's going to be the same when you get there, now you can start planning. It's very hard to plan in a really high inflation environment. I mean, I don't know. So I don't know how to plan in something like that, because whatever you're planning for, it's going to change in 3 days, or change in 5 days, or 10 days. So it's a wild journey, and we're all on it, but it's mad. It's exciting. And if you're questioning like whether or not to jump in, for anyone listening, 100,000%, you will not regret it. And the entire community as well, they can answer every question you've got, and they're happy to. Some of them are, not all of them. Just pick the right one. But yeah,
it's the most welcoming community I have ever been. Everyone is helping you, and even really big guys are answering your DMs and like, oh, like, of course I can help you out with that. So I'm fascinating how kind and open the community is on every level. On every level.
It's wild. It's wild. It just feels like, and I don't know if that's how life is supposed to be, or it just feels so special because the alternative was so not like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, every person, if you ever needed anything, it's like, yeah, make an appointment and, pay me money. And, like, it was always like, there was always something else to it, as where people have kind of like filled their cup, like they're satisfied in their life or something, where they're like, no, I can help you. And I'm just happy to help because I know this will be helpful for you. And so I think that's part of the community. And the community is obviously very motivated. Like any Ponzi scheme, right? You got to make sure the next dude's coming in too.
Exactly, yeah.
But it is, that's what critics will say. But at the end of the day, you're like, dude, it added value to me. I'm just trying to help you find value as well.
Absolutely, it's a fascinating topic, and it's been a great pleasure talking with you. You have a lot of knowledge, and I think we have to dive into a second round someday, because it goes deeper and deeper and wider with you. I have one question that I asked each and every one of my guests, and the question is, what can we learn from you besides Bitcoin?
Great question. What can you learn from me besides Bitcoin? I suppose my thing that I'm really into at the moment, and I have been for probably the past 3 or 4 years, is prime numbers. And so if there was anything that I could ever... Actually, no, I'll change it. If we used all the energy that we have to mine Bitcoins, and we actually translated that to moving blocks, like building a pyramid, right? So let's say you built the pyramid. That took energy to build the pyramid. So let's say all the energy that it took to build the pyramid, if we put the Bitcoin network's energy, how big would that pyramid be? And the answer is that it goes basically, like if that's the Earth, like a round shape, and the moon's over here, the pyramid is like this. Like it extends out to the moon. So I'll send you a video. I made like a visual on this, like maybe 2 years ago with a friend of mine. It's actually wild to see. Like this thing is the biggest wonder of the world that we've really ever made. And I think that's always something that's quite interesting. So other than that, yeah, I just like being in the space, being in the community. Started in 2012 and hope that I'm here many, many more years. It's the coolest ride. It's like a 4D video game. That's what Bitcoin is like. It is a 4D video game. You will live it, breathe it, eat and sleep it, but it's going to be really entertaining and really fun. And it'll make life really good.
That's awesome. That picture of like, I would love to see that, because I think it's fascinating to see it visualized of like how does it actually look and how big it is, because I think our brains are really bad in visualizing things, especially if it's like exponential or really big or something that you cannot see with your eyes directly. Yes. So that's a really good one.
Okay, so I will send it to you. This is so funny. I'll send it to you right now. But yes, it is wild. Once you see it, it's crazy to think about.
Really, really cool. We have an end routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And your question from the previous guest is, what will be the next country that adopts a Bitcoin strategic reserve?
Good question. China. I'd say China. If they haven't already, China.
Oh, that would be big.
And I'd be very surprised if they haven't already. So
but it's like if they announce it, that's a part with China. I'm always like, they probably already have it. So I don't think there's any discussion around that. They probably have it. But will they tell the world, and when will they tell the world? That's the more interesting part for me in China. But it's interesting to think about that. Thank you so much, Michael, for being on. Before I let you go, where can people find you, ask you questions, and reach out to you?
You can find me on GitHub, github.com/MikeD123, or on Twitter, Michael Dunworth. It's actually Michael Dunworth 1, but my name's Michael Dunworth and it should show up. So yeah,
I think you're the first one that said GitHub.
Really?
As a
it's just because it's so hard to explain. Yeah, and I actually write my stuff and put it on GitHub. Like it's not technical. Like most of it's not technical. It's just that's actually just the place that I had. I didn't have a blog, and it was the login that was on my account. So anyway, there's good stuff there. There's good stuff, that's for sure.
I talked with Michael Sullivan, and he writes his books in Visual Studio Code.
How good is that? Dude, there you go. That's his thing. Everyone's got a thing.
So I think, it's really interesting when someone doesn't say Twitter, but yeah, Twitter is usually the main one. Thank you so much for being on. Also, thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See ya.